Good day everyone, I am Eugene V. Pasco and today we're going to tackle about Expert 1 hashtag reorganic. So first, we have here leadership and leaders. So leadership emphasizes the act of leading and the importance of following. A leader must have followers or the leadership function doesn't exist. It simply means that a leader who doesn't have leadership means nothing. No goals to be achieved. Secondly, techniques for organizing work and delegating authorities to meet the organizational goals. First, we have here the know what to delegate. Not every task can be delegated. For example, performance reviews or any personal matters should be handled by you. After all, hiring the right talent and knowing each member's strengths and weaknesses will ultimately make you better at assigning deliverables and transferring responsibility to the appropriate team members. Secondly, play to your employees' strengths and goals. Every member should have goals they're working toward, and within those goals are opportunities to delegate. For example, maybe you have a direct report who wants to gain management experience. Is there an intern they could start supervising or a well-defined project they can own the execution of? The type of work you delegate could factor into their professional development plan. Thirdly, is define the desired outcome. Simply dumping work into someone else's plate isn't delegating. The project you hand off come with proper context and a clear tie into the organization goals. Fourth is provide the right resources and level of authority. Is the person you're delegating work to needs specific training, resources, or authority to complete the design project? It's your role as a leader to provide all three. Setting someone up for an impossible task will frustrate both sides. Your colleague won't be able to achieve the desired outcome, and then you likely need to put that work back on your to-do list. And lastly, allow failure. This step is particularly important for the perfectionists who avoid delegating because they think their way is the only way to get the work done. You need to allow failure not because your members might fail, but because it will enable experimentation and empower the people you're assigning tasks to take a new approach. And we also have here leadership in organizational purposes. Positions of leadership are established in work settings to help organizational subunits to achieve the purposes for which they exist within the larger system. Organizational purpose is the operationalized as a direction for collective action. Leadership processes are directed at defining, establishing, identifying, or translating this direction for their followers and facilitating or enabling the organizational processes that should result in the achievement of this purpose. Fourth is the history and rationale of SBM. In the mid-1970s and early 1980s, saw a large-scale effort to bring about educational improvement through federal state legislation, another swing towards centralized top-down organization. The problem, as is now widely recognized, is that highly centralized educational systems simply do not engender the desired outcomes. For one thing, they tend, like bureaucracy generally, to be impersonal and maddeningly slowly moving. English 1989 comments are typically of observation made about this drawbacks. Highly centralized systems are easily clogged with trivia. The result is inertia, pessimism, inefficiency, cynicism, and long delays for a decision of any kind on the smallest of matters. Number 5 is school-based management is an excellent antidote to bureaucracy. An equally significant concern is the repeated failure of centralized structure to inspire in school personnel the requisite attitude and behavior for bringing about educational improvements. A school improvements, impetus, and authorities emanating from outside the school does not produce the responsibility and commitment necessarily to sustain consequential improvement. So why is the school is the primary unit of change? Because those who work directly with students have the most informed and credible opinion as to what educational arrangement will be most beneficial to those students. Number 6, and the last one of Expert 1, is the leadership and power. Leadership and power are related because power is the motivational factor that provides the leader with the ability to influence behavior. So we have here the types of power: the legitimate, reward, coercive, expert, and referent. So what does legitimate mean? So legitimate is the power from holding a formal management position in our organization. Simply means a position or a role. Reward is the power comes from the leader's authority to bestow rewards. So this is the ability to give rewards. Next one is the coercive. Coercive is the power arising from a leader's ability to mete out negative consequences or remove positive ones for not performing desired behavior. This is the ability to punish. Expert is the informal power resulting from special knowledge or skills, or having superior knowledge. Referent is the personal characteristic and traits that commands respect.
Now, let's proceed to expert number 2, which is hashtag We Are Safe. Topic number 7, entitled Leadership as Non-Routine Influence. So what does it mean? First, let me define what is leadership and non-routine. Leadership occurs in response to or in anticipation of non-routine organizational events. According to Katz and Kahn 1978, who considered the essence of organizational leadership to be the influential increment over and above mechanical compliance with the routine directives of the organization. And last, number 2, non-routine events. So what does it mean also? Non-routine events can be defined as any situations that constitutes a potential or actual hindrance to organizational goal progress. This is not to suggest that leadership is necessarily reactive, or let me say, asocial problem solving. Successful organizational leadership is quiet, proactive in its problem solving. Element of leadership as involving non-routine influence reflects 2 other points. One is critical organizational leadership. Critical organizational leadership is more likely to be reflected in responses to ill-defined problems if the starting parameters, permissible solutions path, and the solutions goal are unspecified. According to the study of Fleischman et al., leaders also need to construct the nature of the problem before they can begin to devise potential solution strategies. Such solutions are also not likely to require significant large-scale change in routine. And number 2 is leadership typically involves discretion and choice. Discretion means judgment of individual. Leadership typically involves discretion and choice in what solutions are appropriate in particular problem domains. Team or organizational actions that are completely specified by procedure or practice do not usually require leaders' intervention. Leadership must be viewed as a process which occurs only in situations where there is decision discretion, according to Jacobs and Wakiz argue. Individuals in leadership roles are responsible for making the choices that define subsequent collective responses to such events and problems. If there is no discretion, there is no such opportunity come. A functional or social problem-solving perspective of leadership is necessarily grounded in contextual framework that presents fundamental performance imperatives demanding organizational choices. In the same way, financial and staffing imperative challenge executives to make and integrate a variety of long and short-term strategic decisions. Topic number 8 is rule changes of SBM. So what does it mean? According to the growing body of implementation research, the major impact is that the rules of all educational stakeholders are profoundly affected. When we say all educational stakeholders, these are the district, the students, the parents, the board members, the superintendents, and etc. According to Bachelor 1990 reports that school-based management and shared decision-making strategies directly challenge and seek to change the complex and well-entrenched patterns of institutions and individual behavior that have remained untouched by top-down reforms. Now we will go to these educational stakeholders to see what exactly the rules in SPM. One is the district. It is virtually impossible. This is noted separately in her 1991 Review and Recommendations article. To change significantly the rule of school-level personnel without changing the traditional district administrative rules. Many writers have presented specific findings about these changes, and we already know that district is to provide public services and public products for the local people. Number two is superintendents. Experience in districts that have tried school-based management has shown that strong support from the superintendent is absolutely necessary for its proper implementations. According to Dat Wheeler, 1989. The superintendents communicate to the community what school-based management is and why it is desirable. The superintendent's rule changes from the level of top-down mandates, to team member who encourages bottom-up change. Furthermore, superintendents also is to lead and manage the school district and to serve as the chief executive officers of the school system. Now let's proceed to the central office staff. The role of these personnel shifts from a primary focus on giving directives and monitoring compliance to serving as resources for and facilitators of school-level change efforts. They have 5 functions also. One is facilitating the development of students and staff performance standards. 2. Offering technical assistance to the schools. 3. Locating and providing resources materials. 4. Establishing funding formulas. And lastly, number 5, carrying out system-wide planning, monitoring, and evaluation. Number 4 is school. Under school-based management, and particularly in those settings where school-based management is accompanied by broad-based decisions. Broad-based decisions making. The roles of all school personnel undergo significant changes. Number 5 is assistant principals and department heads. The role of these people involves towards serving as advocates with principals on behalf of teachers. Next is the teachers. Teachers have often been isolated from involvement in significant decision-making and from frequent and meaningful contact with one another. SBM arrangements tend to increase their involvement in these areas, often to a significant degree. As previously noted, the decision-making domains in which teachers are invited to become involved and the degree of real power they have to make decisions differ across SBM sites. Even so, a transition to SBM typically means that teachers' involvement in decision-making will broaden considerably. Now, let's proceed to the students. Students have traditionally been isolated from operational and policy decisions. Under SBM, students, particularly older ones, often have influence in these areas by giving advice and input. And now, let's proceed to the parents and community representatives. So, what does it mean? Parents and community representatives have generally been relatively uninformed and underutilized regarding decisions and operations. And lastly, the school board. The school board is the board's clear message of support for school-based management, lends credibility, and foster positive community attitudes toward SBM projects. The board's rule does not change as dramatically as that of some stakeholders, but its support remains vital. As might be expected, rule changes as numerous and profound as those outlined above are not likely to happen effortlessly or painlessly. School-based management problems related to changes in people's rules that are commonplace. These are detailed in the following sections, along with the other difficulties encountered in implementing and operating SBM.
So good day everyone. I am Aimee Renisigaran and I am here virtually in front of you to discuss about Expert 3 hashtag We Are Love. So Expert 3 contains with number 9, developing leadership ability, number 10, TQM as an empowerment technique, number 11, leadership as managing social and cognitive phenomena, and lastly, number 12, obstacles to the success of SBM. First, number 9, developing leadership ability. Well, from the title itself, it is very understandable that number 9 explains the level of development of a leader in any situation. Dili niya matunan or ma-develop yung expertise or kamaayo, empathy or ang pagsabot kung unsa may panghitabo sa workplace or ang pagsabot nimo sa tao or ang pagsabot nimo sa any situation. So in developing leadership ability, we have 7 things to remember or normalize while we are in the process of developing our leadership ability. First is letter A, leadership development is lifelong. Even though you are already a leader, you still need to seek more information and ideas to any situation. Especially in today's generation, the word uso is not permanent. Letter B, leadership development ability has process. If letter A explains that developing leadership ability is lifelong, letter B explains that developing leadership ability has process. Gaining knowledge and experience in a variety of ways and settings is normal when you're in a process of developing. So letter C, types of knowledge include political, bureaucratic, technical, and professional. While we are in the process of developing leadership ability, we should include to learn about these all four: the political, bureaucratic, technical, and professional. So, according to Google, political is defined as relating to the government or the public affairs of the country. Some of these are governors, mayors, senators, and etc. While bureaucratic defined as relating to the business of running an organization or government. Bureaucratic was a process on how to maintain or how to improve your business, organization, or any group activity. Technical. The term technical is often used to refer to the level of depth or expertise a person has on a subject. Professional. Professional involves consistently achieving high standards both in the work you do and the way you behave. Being professional helps you to achieve high quality results while impressing and inspiring others and feeling good about yourself. So, letter D stated here that gaining power and using it effectively is important in both personal and professional situations. Power and influence result in effective coordination of both people and projects in the course of achieving goals. It explains that having a power and influence will end up to a good result if you only have the word coordination. In short, what's the sense of the power and influence if you all can't mingle to your coworker or people around you? So coordination is a must. So letter E and F. Let us explain these two ones because they are connected. Mansad. So letter E, develop affiliation and support from subordinates, peers, and supervisors. Leaders should pay close attention to those that are already leaders. Letter F, supporting supervisors forms an important alliance. Well, another word for affiliation is the word connecting. So letter E explains that not because you are in a process of being a good leader, You are not allowed to connect to any leaders outside your box. So developing leadership ability also includes to support and see other leaders' achievement to learn much more. So while letter F explains that supporting our leaders or any person who is way upper from you was also a process in developing your leadership ability. Letter G, coordinate projects to complete them efficiently. Empowerment requires self leadership and grants individuals the power to lead others. Doing something will take you a bunch of time, so we really need to coordinate to someone who is involved to our project. When developing leadership ability, we also need to connect people outside that may help us. Employees also need to have self leadership ability in order to have the cooperation needed and the good result we want. So we are now at number 10, TQM as an empowerment technique. TQM, also known as Total Quality Management, defined as the employee's continuously improve ability to provide the products and services that the customer wants. Edward Deming's belief in total quality as a constant standard for industry. He advocated the use of statistical measures to track quality. When we say statistical measures, it involves number of people and their idea. A very good example of this is practical research. Almost all of us students experience how tough and important practical research is. We gather data of information via people's answer and fix the problem. So we have here a basic premises of TQM rely on satisfaction of multiple customers with products or services, employee empowerment, and use of statistical tools for problem solving. They do TQM to make their customers satisfied with what they serve, and also TQM makes the employees be more productive and make them improve. Letter B, Deming's absolutes of quality stem from his 14 rules regarding the achievement and maintenance of the quality. And here are the rules. Number 11 of developing leadership ability is leadership as managing social and cognitive phenomena. With the title itself, it is very understandable that this principle focuses in social and cognitive ability of a person. The article gives an example that's stated here. If the top executive team is constructed with individuals of varying functional expertise, the team as a whole has considerably more resources to develop more complex representation of the organization's operating environment. Well, however, team members will often stay silent and defer to the CEO unless social processes permit them to contribute to environmental interpretation. So, in short, number 11 explains that if we have a good leader and has social skills, cognitive is high, and good incorporation to coworkers, the result tend to be good and effective. Lastly, number 12, obstacles to the success of SBM. So, in every success, there is always an obstacle. SBM has multiple obstacles in the process. First of this is time. Staff required to work additional hours each day. Time is the top problem in school based management. So, number two problem is unrealistic expectation. People in SPM tend to expect that every project only lasts for 2 years, but this expectation is only an expectation. Mostly projects in school tend to last or tend to finish in 5 years or more. It is according to research. So, number three, insufficient support for site councils. Site councils, which are the bodies concerned with planning and decision making in most SBM structures, are often given extensive responsibilities but lack of qualifications to carry out those responsibilities. Some of the site councils are not capable of the rules. Typical problems include lack of knowledge of school operations, lack of group process skills, lack of clarify about the rule, incongruence between decisions desired and decisions allowed, and other constraint or limitation on decision making. So people tend to find the school-based management or SBM defined as making the school change. But well, in fact, SBM or school-based management make the school improve and be more effective not only to students but also to people who are involved in the school.
So we are now in the expert four, and I'll be discussing the types of organization, success of empowerment in the workplace, leadership and the organizational context, stakeholders' attitude towards school-based management. But first, I will begin with the types of organization. Types of organization have different views and structures. There are three main views. The first one is classical organizational theory. Uses strict structures. It is under with the military bureaucratic organizational structure. And it uses pyramid like a chain of command. So with the higher authority to the lower authority. Neoclassical organizational theory began as a criticism of classical theory because it didn't reflect what really happened in the organization, but it follows the workflow and the productivity of classical. But of course, it should be meet the needs of the employee. So for example, in this school, so what has been implemented, so the needs of the students should be met. Next is contemporary organizational theory. Looks at the organization as a system composed of people, formal structures, small groups, rules, and physical environment. And it should be informal communication, a communication with friendly and with manner. Next is success of empowerment in the workplace. Comes from its many advantages and few disadvantages. The advantages include improving productivity. So the productivity of the teacher will improve and the students will motivate to become productive as well. Next is improving quality. So the teaching level of the teacher will turn into a high level and improving job satisfaction. So with that, the teacher is enjoying their career. Next is greater responsiveness and problem solving. So the teacher have knowledge on solving the problem, especially in the classroom environment, if the classroom environment is a safety for the students. The disadvantages include poor training. The teacher, no, because the teacher is not only focused on with that, they are also focused on paperwork and so on. And next is significant costs. So in terms of improving the schools, so it really needs money. And pressure to achieve corporate goals cannot be disguised as empowerment. Yes, it is pressure to achieve the goals because it is not easy for the teachers to achieve that kind of goals without the help of other stakeholders also. Next is the step to empowerment must be followed to reap the advantages over the disadvantages. So what has been implemented, so the steps of that should be followed to give more advantages and lower disadvantages. Next is the leadership and the organizational context. Katz and Kahn 1978 specified three distinct patterns of organizational leadership. The first one concerns the administrative use of existing organizational structures. Second, leadership pattern occurring at middle organizational levels involves the establishment and operationalization of formal structural elements. Third is organizational leadership, which occurs at the top of organizations, concerns structural origination or change in the organization. So those are the three distinct patterns of organizational leadership that is specified by Katz and Kahn 1978. Next is the stakeholders' attitudes towards school-based management. Several researchers addressed the subject of the attitudes towards school-based management held by those who have been involved in SPM efforts. The first one is the school staff members. They have the ability to adapt resources and procedures to students' needs. Next is parent and student. Their satisfaction with the schools has been shown to increase under SBM or school-based management. Next is the principals, consistently shown a high degree of satisfaction with the move to school-based management. Next is the teachers. They are able to make or influence decision regarding curriculum and instruction. Next is site council members, whether they are teachers, non-certified staff, parents, community members, or students, express resentment.
Let's move on to the final expert, the expert 5. I'll expand on the qualities of an effective leader and their attitudes towards their subordinates in this chapter. So people come from the values of human nature. They reflect the degree of trust that managers have in their subordinates. So as a manager or as a leader, you are responsible to your team. As a leader or as a manager nga, ikaw ang mas dakong responsibility kaysa tanan kay sa imo nakaasa, sa imo nakasalig ang imong mga employee. Ikaw ang ginatan-aw sa imong mga employee. So you as a leader dapat responsible ka, or dapat nang imong think is the way you think is very creative. Edge impacted the characteristic they displayed. So if you handle your employee very well, expect an excellent job from them. So, unsa imong ginatreat sa imong employee, mo pa na ibalik sa imuha. If you handled your employee very well, so expect pod nga ang ilang ibalik sa imuha, excellent job. Kay kung unsa imong ginapakaon sa imong employee, mura pa na ilang ibalik sa imuha. Participatory management involves participation in different forms today. It is used to guide performance and self-managed teams. So, from the word itself, participation, you must participate. It always involves participation, unity, work as a team, work for your cited goal para ma-target, para makuha to ninyo ang inyong gipangandoy. As a team, dana din mag-involve ang participation, dana dapat ka mulihok, dili ka dapat magtanga, dili ka dapat nga pahinay-hinay, dapat kung you as a manager pod, kung if naa kay nakita nga ang imong employee is luya, nang help them to improve, help them na mas mo grow pa jud. Next, major conceptual approaches to leadership. Leadership concepts refers to factors that leaders consider when applying a leadership style and overseeing a team of individuals. As a leader, you have a lot of things to consider. You look into the progress of your team. You are responsible for the growth of your employee. Dapat dapat asa sila mas mo grow. Dapat nang kamo ka kung as sila dapat i-uplift. You as a leader is a comforter, an advisor for your employee. These principles focus on ideas and perceptions about traits leaders should and how they should perform in a leadership role. Additionally, leadership concepts helps professionals understand what kind of skills and character traits to develop in order to advance in leadership roles. So as a leader, you should know how to uplift your subordinates. Gina-educate nimo sila kung unsay dapat nila buhaton, kung unsay dili. If you truly an effective leader, dapat kamo ka always, dapat nahuna-una nimo always ang the best para nila. So last, being an effective leader isn't just about your own actions. However, it also requires a deep understanding of others. So as a leader, dili lang jud ka puros ikaw. Dapat dili lang dapat nimo gina-consider nga dapat ikaw lang tan-awon, ikaw lang paminawon. Di dapat i-consider pud nimo ang feelings sa imong employee. Dapat ka mausag ka mulugar kung asa ra gyud ka taman. Dili ra dapat ikaw, and also dapat ka mausag ka maminaw sa imong employee. Kamo dawat sa ilahang sa ilahang advice, also sa ilang gusto nila i-apply. Dapat i-consider na nimo ilang feelings kung unsa lang dapat buhaton. So that's it. Next is social and interpersonal exchange. The major unit in this approach is the relationship between the leaders and his or her followers. So why is it important, the relationship between leaders and the employee? So it is important because if ang isa ka pundok walay sakto nga relasyon, so pangit yung kinalabasan. So it is important yun nga ang inyong relationship is strong na, ang inyong relationship is bisag unsa pa man inyong pagdaanan or inyong maagian, magpabilin na gyapon mong strong, magpabilin na gyapon mong committed dapat sa inyong team. Leaders provide direction, guidance, and activity structuring to a collective. Dapat you as a leader na ka mga quality, no? Ikaw mo provide og guidance, ikaw mo provide og mga dapat pangbuhaton nila. So you as a leader dapat responsible ka ng mga butang. You as a leader dapat committed ka kung unsa gid imong gisudlan. You as a leader you work ng excellent always kay ikaw ang ginalantaw sa imong subordinates, imong mga ka-employee. leader effectiveness is defined as function or the dynamic that occurs between the leader and the followers. So it states there that if you as a leader is effective daw ka, mo function daw imong team, mo function daw ang matag usa. You as a leader, kung if effective ka, makita nimo ang progress sa matag usa. As might be expected, models from this approach focus on one or more three elements. These are characteristics of the leader, characteristics of the follower, and characteristics of their relationship. So kaning tulo importante gid dapat kaayo. Dapat ang characteristics sa matag usa is kuan dapat magkatugma kung unsa mo kay dili mag-work ang team, dili mag-work ang inyong team if ang isa tapulan at ang isa kugihan. Dapat yun nang sama-sama gid mo ba uban yun mo na mo grow. Tabangan ninyo ang matag usa na may kulong, magtinabanga mo. And lastly, SBM and students' performance. So what is SBM? It is school-based management is one of several reforms proposed and instituted over the past decade to improve public education. Its ultimate goal, as White 1989 point out, is to improve the teaching and learning environment for students. So this article is SBM is ginatanaw niya kung unsa mas mo-grow pa ang students, dini ginatanaw kung unsa mas dapat buhaton para mas ma-improve pa ang isa ka estudyante. What is school-based management? So school-based management or SBM programs decentralize district decisions by locating them in the school. Shareholders normally include teachers and principals. Some SBM programs reach out as well to parents, students, and other community members. So it is not all about kuanjud ng students, no? It is about also the parents, ng stakeholders, and the community. So wala rin siya nakafocus sa student. So the common responsibilities of SBM include control over minor aspects of school finance and school-level planning and policy making. Advocates of school-based management argue that students' performance is likely to improve when education management is centered in the school rather than the districts. So that's it. If ang school mismo ang handle sa students, so makita gid ang improvement kay sa school is na ng teacher na ang iyang classmates, so dana gid mas ma-improve, mas malantaw ang students kung asa dapat siya i-improve, asa dapat siya ibutang. So if ang school ang handle is sure good na ang improvement sa students. So that's all. Thank you.